Hello everybody! I have with me a bunch of sets, some of which we are saving to resell, and today I'm going to be trying to help you figure out whether or not this is a great idea for your store. Like I said, I have a bunch of sets in front of me here. Now, these sets we were originally planning on keeping for a long time, but after doing some research for this video, we've changed our mind on a couple of these, and that's because well, saving sets seems to be a bit more of a disappointment than we had anticipated. It's really a gamble, and I cannot stress that enough. I've outlined a couple of tips to help you maximize your profits, but you should still do a lot of research and understand that this is not nearly as guaranteed as opening a store. If I had to choose between just saving sets and opening a store, every time I would open a store. So just keep that in mind. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about some of the cons before I get into the pros, because although if this is what you want to do, you should do it, I'm not really trying to sell this. In fact, I'm saying that maybe you should rethink about saving these sets. The biggest problem is honestly time. When I was doing research for this, I was expecting that if I went back, found a really old set and looked it up, it would be worth a ton of money. I was very wrong. I found an advent calendar from 1993, and this is just the example I'm using. You can go do this for a lot of sets, but I found an advent calendar from 1993, and it was worth about $112, which you might say, oh wow, that's probably way more than they bought it for, especially in 1993. Yes, but they had to wait $27 to get, 27 years to get $112 out of this probably $15 investment. That's, more than 3 times, but is it really worth 27 years? In my opinion, no. I can go to Walmart, I can buy a bunch of sets right now, and I can part those out for 3 times value, and in a couple months most of those parts will be sold. So I would just say that just because a set's old does not make it worth value. Now that said, there are some limited sets which totally are worth value. But another big con is honestly the re-releasing, and this ties into the limited sets. If you buy a set thinking, oh, I'm going to be one of the few people with this set, well, Lego might decide in 2 years to go ahead and just say, nope, we're re-releasing it. Usually they re-release with different parts, or it's a bit of a change, but sometimes it is literally the exact same set in a different box. Boxing can of course matter, but for a lot of people who just want to build the set, it's really, they're going to go with whatever's cheapest, and buying from Lego might be cheapest. So I would say that you really need to make sure that the set that you are buying is truly a limited release and is not just going to be re-released later with, the exact same thing, just a different box. And the last big con is this is really a gamble, and I cannot stress this enough. I know I said this earlier, but I cannot stress it. This is a gamble. When you purchase a set, you have no idea what's going to be happening 30 years from now. You have no idea if there's going to be 100 other sets like this, or if you're going to be one of 500 and it's going to be worth 10 grand. Now, obviously one of these is a 1 in a million chance, the other one is the other million. Don't go into this expecting to make a huge amount of money. With all that said though, if you still intend to store away sets because you don't want to open a store or whatever, it's unlikely you're going to lose money, you just might not make a lot. So I have a little list of what you can do to maximize that amount of money. And the first and most obvious to anyone who has sold any kind of thing or worked in most stores is exclusivity. If you have something and you have the only one of it, it is worth money simply because you have the only one of it. And assuming that, it's not like a pipe or something actually worth something. If you have a Lego piece like Mr. Gold or an ambassador set, like for example, sometimes Legoland will give out to people with higher paying tickets or Lego ambassadors very rare sets, like a Han Solo Tauntaun which came out, which is worth a monumental amount of money. I believe that it is over $1,000, and this is a very basic set, but there are very few in existence, just like Mr. Gold, and that makes it worth a ton of money. So if you have a way to secure a very rare set then I would 100% say do that, because that is, in my opinion, the only very close to 100% way to guarantee that you are going to get a good return, is by having something that is super rare and no one else has. Secondly, if you really aren't interested in opening a store, then sticking some sets up in the attic can be a good idea, because you can just box them, forget it, and open it up in 20 years and be like, oh wow, here's $600 that I made, and there's nothing wrong with having $600 at any point in your life. But if you're doing this to save and you plan on making a decent return, I would recommend something a bit more traditional, like a retirement account. But that said, they don't take up a ton of room, it's easy, and you can just forget it. Another really important tip is about minifigures, because a lot of what drives LEGO collectors is minifigures. I mean, you can just look at CMFs, which are collectible minifigures. You can look at how much minifigures are versus any other piece in a set. Usually they make up a lot of a set, the part out value of. And if you have a set with rare minifigs or a single release, like Harry Potter, while this is not a good example because it has a very, very high piece to minifig ratio with a lot of pieces, very few minifigs, it nonetheless has 4 minifigs that only come in that set. If you can find something with a much better minifig ratio, I would say that that is probably a safer investment, assuming that those minifigs only come in that set. But once again, you have no idea whether LEGO will release those minifigs in another set later. This is a lot less secure than a truly limited set like an ambassador set. The last tip that I think I can give you is about discontinued sets and discontinued themes. If you have a set of a theme that is discontinued, or you know that a specific set will be discontinued, that has a higher chance of being worth something, especially if it's in demand. And I would say maybe only if it's in demand. If you have a set that everybody really likes, like for example, the Minecraft Cave system, a lot of people seem to like that set, and it's not super old. It didn't retire that long ago. But it goes for $300 plus on BrickLink right now, and that's a pretty good deal. Also, Duel on Bespin right now, that was something that only came out a month ago and then disappeared. Now people are selling it for triple, maybe more on BrickLink. And so if you have something that people want, you can get a bunch of it and you can sell it. That is probably the fastest way to make money on these sets, but like I said, it's still much more of a gamble than something like just buying sets to part out. In order to figure this out, you really have to do your own research, and I can't stress that enough. And some of the research that you need to do is really abstract, like the coolness of a set. How do you measure that? A lot of it is personal opinion. You can't really figure out whether something that you think is cool to someone else. You really have to look at the data, decide how many people are purchasing this set and how many are left. Then make a judgment call as to whether or not you want to really spend the money on this set, knowing that there is a great deal of risk. But if you have a knack for this, if you flip stuff or work in a similar field where you have a lot of experience, then I would say go ahead. But for your average person who doesn't have a ton of market experience, I would say that, once again, much safer to open a store. This is honestly something that only you can decide. And while you should, take limited releases, and you could argue that those are worth money, it's really up to you at the end of the day on whether or not you want to risk your funding. All in all, while I can say that you probably will make some money, it's probably not worth it, and the sheer amount of time that you have to keep these Legos for, in my opinion, really negates the profit. And if I had to pick between opening a store and saving Lego, I would pick the store every time, because I don't have to wait a decade. I have to wait a couple months. It's much safer, and it's probably going to make me more money in the end. I've been Paul from Just a Brick in the Bucket. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. And if you were thinking about saving some sets, hopefully I've provided a bit more light on the situation and helped you to figure out whether or not that is really something that you want to do with your money. If you did enjoy this content, we do have a Discord and a Patreon. If you want to support either of those, the Discord is active all the time. There are people there to answer your questions. It's a really great community, and of course supporting us on Patreon helps this channel and really helps motivate us to continue doing more content. So if you want to support us on that, there's a link in the description. There's also a link for the Discord. Please feel free to join either of those, and I really hope that I see you in the next video. Thanks. Have a great day.